Some years ago, my sister Christina had a job that she didn't love. And so she was trying to find another job, and so she applied to various places. And in the course of doing this, she would text the family, like a family text chat, and tell us to pray for various things. Well, one time, she applied for a job that she really wanted. And she did well in the interview, but she knew that this competition was stiff for this job. And she knew that she would find out on a certain morning, she would receive an email letting her know whether she got the job or didn't get the job. So she's currently at the job that she doesn't like, and she's in a meeting, and she's looking at her phone, kind of refreshing the email, waiting for an email from the possible new job. And the email comes in. Whew. So she clicks on it to find out, and she got the job. She got the job. But here's the problem. She's still at the job that she doesn't like. So what does she do? She can't be like, screw you people. She can't be, 2 weeks, and then I'm out, But she's told the family later that she got emotional just looking at this, how excited she was. And so here she is in this meeting. She's very emotional, and she wants to tell somebody, but she can't really tell anyone in this room. So then she sends it out to the group chat, like, I got the job. And we're like, emojis. We're just sending all these things back to her. And I'm reminded of that because I'm sure all of us have had that experience where you have a secret, so to speak, and you don't want to keep it. You're so excited to tell other people about this good news of your life. And if we had a marquee in front of our church, one of the things that it could say is it could say, the secret is out. Because that's ultimately what the Epiphany is about. Epiphany is a word that means unveiling or appearance. It's how Jesus is being made known to the wider world. Now, before I get more into that, I just want to lay out a biblical principle that will help all of our general biblical knowledge. And that is exploring this statement, Jesus is God. Now, there's a biblical scholar that I love named N.T. Wright. And he says, when we look at that sentence, Jesus is God, we assume we all know who God is. We're just trying to figure out who this Jesus character is. But he says it's actually more true to say the opposite. That we know who Jesus is, but the question is which God is he claiming to be? And the answer is that Jesus is claiming to be the creator God of Israel. The Jews had this idea that God actually created the universe out of nothing, which was a unique idea in the ancient world, and that he was the only God. And that God of creation was also the God of covenant, and he had chosen this people, the people of Israel, to hold this special role in salvation history. And he tells them, I didn't choose you because you were great or better than all the nations. I chose you because you were the smallest, because I wanted my glory to be revealed through you. So the God that Jesus is claiming to be is the God of creation and the God of covenant. God walking among his people. Now, back to the story. So we have in the gospel, of course, the Epiphany. And these magi from the east, they see the star, it leads them to Bethlehem. King Herod finds out about this prophecy. Now, Herod was a king. He was a half-Jew, and he was a client king of Rome. So he was there at Rome's pleasure, and anytime the emperor could have him removed. And Herod was very aware that his throne was not very stable. So he had a pathological fear of somebody taking away his throne. How pathological? I'll tell you. Whenever he felt his throne threatened, he would usually have that person killed. What does that mean? He had his own wife killed and 3 of his own sons. Pathologically afraid to have his throne taken. And so when he hears about these people from the east saying, we heard about the newborn king of the Jews, and we want to know where it is, he's afraid of that, which is, of course, why he says, please go find out for me so that I could do him homage. But, of course, we know later he has a malicious purpose. And then it says this, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves, that means they laid down on their faces, and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And what the Catechism says is that the Magi from the east represent the pagan nations even coming to worship the God of Israel. Because you see, the Jews had these prophecies that although the Lord, the Messiah, was from Israel, he was for the world. And that at one point, even the Jews called non-Jews Gentiles, the Hebrew word is goyim, which is loosely translated as the word the nations. So either you were a Jew, God's chosen people, or you were non-Jews, non-chosen, the goyim, the nations. And so there are these prophecies that one day, even the non-Jews, the goyim, the nations, even they would come to recognize the God of Israel. And that's actually what our first reading is from Isaiah chapter 60. That's what it means when it says, nations, it's talking about the God of Israel, shall walk by your light, even the goyim, and kings by your shining radiance. That's why if you notice in the gospel, they called them three magi, but we sing, we three kings, or in our. Why are we calling them kings if the gospel says they're magi or wise men? And the answer is because Catholics read the Bible, the New Testament, in light of the Old. And they're fulfilling this prophecy, and it says that kings, the non-Jews, will come, and they will worship the God of Israel. But what's interesting is that they don't offer their gifts, which it says frankincense and myrrh, to the temple, the Jerusalem, or to a place. They offer it to this baby, the Christ child, with Mary, his mother. And so what this is all revealing is very simple. The secret is out. Jesus is Lord. He's the God of all nations. He's the God of creation and the God of covenant. And that's what the gifts represent. It's not only fulfilling this prophecy, but he receives gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Why gold for a king? Because Jesus is the King of the nations. Why frankincense? Because that's what they would burn in the tabernacle, in the Holy of Holies. It's what recognizes Jesus' divinity, that he's God. And lastly, is the strange one, myrrh, which was an oil that you used to embalm bodies. It would be like getting a baby a coffin. It's very weird. Like, you need that for death. Why did you get that for my child? But it's pointing forward to the fact that this God will reveal his love, most especially through his suffering and death. So right at the very beginning, it's pointing forward to the death of Jesus. And here's the deal. How do I know that I know this secret? And the answer is that I can't keep it. That's how I know. And so I offer two things for you. The first is that we have to, as Catholics, know the story. In other words, the story of salvation history. Some of you might be aware of something like the Great Adventure Bible Timeline, and that's where you read 14 books of the Bible, and you get the narrative thread of the scriptures. The Bible's 73 books. It's actually a library, but it's only one story, and Jesus is the climax of the story. Jesus is the yes to all of God's promises to Israel. I'm going to say that again. Jesus is the yes to all of God's promises to Israel. That's the God he's claiming to be, and his life makes no sense unless you read him in light of the Old Testament. All of these prophecies, all of these covenants reach their climax in the person of Jesus. We have to know the story, and that's what makes our heart burn to not keep the secret, to let it out. The second, very simply, is that we need to share the story. In other words, we need to be like a star for other people. Does my life shine on Christ? And that if somebody knows me by my actions and my words, am I always leading them closer to Christ? St. Jerome once said, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. So if I know Scripture, I know Christ. And what I'll know more and more is that it's true. The secret is out. Jesus is the Lord of the nations, and he's the God of creation, and he's the God of covenant. And how do you know that you know the secret? Because you can't keep it.